We'll get started. Thank you. Good evening. Is Paul Rosenbaum in the house?
He's out there talking. He's coming.
Okay. All right. Okay, calling the meeting to order, the Peoria County Board meeting Thursday, August 11th, 2022. My name is James Fennell. I'm the Vice Chairman, filling in for Mr. Rand, Chairman Rand. So we will start with a moment of silence, especially those people who have been from the fires and the floods and all the different natural disasters we've had, and then we'll have the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
No.
Chairman Rand?
Here.
Sixteen present. Can you read it?
You put odd or even, don't you?
Okay.
The first one's gonna be, okay.
Sorry for the delay. Next, we were going to have the lottery to determine the term limits of the county board members. As you know, you'll either be serving a 4-year term or a 2-year term based on if you're in an odd district or if you're in an even district. And we're going to do this the good old-fashioned way by drawing. And I'm going to put it here so that you can see. One of those is marked a 2-year term, one's a 4-year term. And so,
Wait a minute. I thought it was odd and even.
well, the odd years and even years are on there as well. So when I opened it up, it'll tell you if you're an odd year or an even year and what your term limit is. They're marked.
Okay, we first agreed that it was going to be a 2-year term. The one with the 2-year was going to be the first one drawn. And so it's going to be odd or even. So, and then the second one drawn would be the 4-year term. So the first one, if it's,
Okay.
so whoever, if it's drawn odd, it will be a 2-year term, or if it's drawn even, it'll be a 2-year term, the first drawing. And then, okay, is that correct, the way we're going to do it?
Odd, 2 years, even 4 years. Okay.
No. The first drawing, first one picked will be 2 years.
So just odd or even.
Right.
On the
So,
Okay, so let's get the first one.
okay.
It's the 1 year.
It's even. Okay. So the even numbered will have a 2-year term. So obviously, the next one drawn would be the 4-year term would be
What's left?
for the odd numbered. Everybody clear with that?
Even 2 years.
Just for this next term. And then it'll be 4-year terms after, so it'll be, if you stayed on, it would be 2, 4, 4, If you stayed on, it'd be 4-4-2. Everybody clear? Okay. All right.
All the even districts are 2 years. Sorry for the confusion.
That's okay. We got through it.
All right. Next would be approval of the minutes.
Approval of the minutes of July 14th, 2022. Could I have a motion, please? Betty and Kate, thank you. Any comments, corrections, additions, modifications? Seeing none, all those in favor, vote, or however you want to vote for it.
Chairman Rand,
Aye. Aye.
Ms. Daly, Ms. Duncan, Ms. Williams. There we go. 16 ayes. Next is proclamations and presentations. Item number 1 is a proclamation recognizing Sandra Burke for her service on the Peoria County Board of Election Commissioners.
Hello? Ms. Green? Can we hear? Okay. Now I'm gonna hold it. All right, so we have 2 proclamations tonight. We have Sandra Burke for the Election Commission, and we have Mark Ketterer for the Election Commission. So both of them have served on the Election Commission and have done it very well for us. Their term has come to a close, and so we'd like to honor both of them. I don't think Ms. Burke is here, but we will read her proclamation first. Mr. Ketterer is here, so we'll read his second. And Judge Gorman here has the privilege of nominating, or actually appointing, the next 2 replacements, which will be done next week, right, on the 15th? Yeah, so next week. So with that, we will move forward. The first proclamation is for Ms. Burke. Whereas the Peoria County Board and Chief Judge of the 10th Judicial Circuit wishes to thank Sandra Burke for her dedication and longtime service to the Peoria County Board of Election Commissioners on the occasion of her retirement from the Election Commission. And whereas Sandra Burke was appointed to serve as an election commissioner of the Peoria County Board of Election Commissioners in 2018. And whereas she served on multiple leadership roles on the Election Commission, including being elected Secretary and Treasurer during her tenure. Whereas Sandra Burke displayed the highest ideal of public service with respect to her service on the Election Commission, as well as in other areas of her personal and professional life. Whereas Sandra Burke has served our community through her extensive work in the field of education, including at Peoria Public Schools, Head Start, and Illinois Central College. Whereas she was inducted into the African American Hall of Fame and received numerous recognitions, including 25 Women in Leadership, YWCA Leadership Award, Omega Psi Phi Fraternity, Theta Psi Chapter Citizen of the Year Award. And whereas Sandra Burke has given of her time and talent over the years to serve on numerous boards, including the Heartland Community Clinic, Boys and Girls Club, Upgrade Corporation, George Washington Carver Community Center, Community Foundation, and the YWCA. And whereas Sandra Burke has a strong commitment to her family, which includes 10 grandchildren, 1 great-grandchild, she is also happily celebrating her 50th wedding anniversary. So a lot of great things. Now, therefore, we, Andrew A. Rand, Chairman of the County Board, Catherine S. Gorman, Chief Judge of the 10th Judicial Circuit, on behalf of the County Board and Peoria County Board of Election Commissioners, do hereby recognize the significant contribution of Sandra Burke's time, effort, and expertise through her services as Commissioner of the Peoria County Board of Election Commissioners for the past 4 years, dated this 11th day of August AD 2022, signed by Andrew A. Rand, Peoria County Chairman, Catherine S. Gorman, 10th Judicial Circuit Chief Judge, Rachel Parker, Peoria County Clerk. So I don't know if Sandra's watching online, but we can maybe give her a notice and she can at least acknowledge. It's great, so applause for her. And if Mr. Burke or Mr. Ketterer would come up. We also have Mr. Manning from the Election Commission in the room, so we've got some good representation here. So we will now move to Mark Ketterer. Welcome, Mark. Thank you. So again, we'll go through and then we'll give you an opportunity to make some comments on your behalf and Sandra's behalf, along with Judge. We'll have her make a comment or two because she's good at that. Okay. Okay. Whereas the Peoria County Board and Chief Judge of the 10th Judicial Circuit wishes to thank Mark Ketterer for his dedication and longtime service to the Peoria County Board of Election Commissioners on the occasion of his retirement from the Election Commission. And whereas Mark Ketterer has been a dedicated and active volunteer since his original appointment in 2009 on the board, or the City of Peoria Board of Election. That was before they were joined together. No. It was when they're, okay. Whereas he was appointed to, back up, yeah, whereas he was appointed to continue his service as a commissioner of the Peoria County Board of Election Commissioners in 2016, and whereas Mark Ketterer served as vice chairman of the Peoria County Board of Election Commissioners from 2018 through 2022, and whereas Mark Ketterer enthusiastically embraced the role of as a commissioner and vice chairman, and he dedicated himself to learning all aspects of the election process. Whereas Mark Ketterer also shared his extensive knowledge regarding elections with fellow commissioners, election commission staff, and the community. And whereas he displayed the highest ideals of public service with respect to his service of election commission, with a strong focus on the accuracy and accessibility of voting. Now, therefore, we, Andrew A. Rand, Chairman of the Peoria County Board, and Catherine S. Gorman, Chief Judge of the 10th Judicial Circuit, on behalf of the County Board and Peoria County Board of Election Commissioners, do hereby recognize the significant contribution of Mark Ketterer's time, effort, and expertise through his service as a commissioner for the past 13 years. Dated this day, 11th day of August AD 2022, signed Andrew A. Rand, Peoria County Board Chairman, Catherine S. Gorman, 10th Judicial Circuit Chief Judge, and Rachel Parker, Peoria County Clerk. Thank you, sir. You want to make some comments?
Well, just quickly, I just want to thank Sandra and Mark for your service to Peoria County. I know it's a lot of time and effort, and we thank you for that.
You're welcome. It's really a privilege to have done this. It's not hard, but it's very important. And you've got a great staff and administration is there to make sure that voting is accessible, safe, and accurate for everybody. And so you should be proud of the job that they're doing. And thank you very much.
Next, we'd be at citizens' remarks.
Okay, we have two citizens' remarks, 5 minutes apiece. We'll start with Miss Jessica Thomas. You can use the
Yeah, we can leave it
remotely,
there.
or you can use the stand, either way. Doesn't matter.
Okay, so my comments are for the board members. So I pretty much know and can expect how most of you will vote tonight. It will be no surprise. You all kind of vote in tandem. It's also not a surprise that not one of you have took the time out to poll the constituents in your respective districts on if they actually want this referendum to be presented on the ballot for a second time. If this effort is not being powered by the constituents in your respective districts, then what or whom is it being powered by? If you county board members are not working on the behalf of your constituents, then who are you working on behalf of? Your self-interest or your constituents? Many of you have served on the board in 2017. You drafted, as board member Williams stated at the last executive board meeting, a confusing referendum. And you voted to put that confusing referendum on the primary ballot. Anyone who is familiar with elections would know that general elections have higher voter turnouts than primary elections. But to be crystal clear, this was a decision of the county board. And Tazewell County proposed a similar referendum in the general election of 2018, and it was also rejected by voters. Many of you stated that you wanted to hear from voters in 2017, including Chairman Dillon. You voted unanimously in November of 2017 to put this referendum on the ballot. The referendum was defeated in March 2018, one of the highest voter turnouts in the primary election in recent history. Voters spoke and rejected your proposed referendum, but you still choose not to listen. Why? When the voters clearly spoke. So you board members decide to change the language up and propose to use unnecessary public resources, and one of the resources is you guys and your time, because you're paid for your time, public resources to bring this to the voters a second time. Why, if the voters didn't ask for it? Is it because when voters spoke, it wasn't the answer you wanted? It's very disingenuous for members to continue to say that they want to hear from the voters, and they want to put this on the ballot to hear from the voters. When the voters spoke, it just wasn't the answer you wanted. So you keep asking in different ways to get the answer you desire. As Vice Chair Fennell stated at the executive committee meeting, that he can propose this referendum as many times as he wants. This statement sounds like an abuse of power to me, when the people clearly spoke in 2018. Board members, please be aware that if you vote yes today, the record will be clear. The public will see that you don't work in the interests of your constituents and that you don't respect the outcome of elections. And your constituents may take heed to your behavior when they vote on their board representation this November. All the new and incoming board members who weren't here for the 2017 referendum, I would advise you to respect the will of the voters and vote no to this referendum until the board takes time out to really gauge public interest on if they want this to be brought to the board a second time. Respect the will of the voters, respect the 2018 decision, and vote no on this referendum. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Thomas. Okay, Zach Kohler.
Thank you, sir. It's Kraler, actually.
Oh, Kraler?
But it's
Okay,
hard
thank-
to know because
I-
it's German. And
Yeah, all right, thanks for
sure you'll
correcting.
understand. Yeah. So, hello, County Board. My name's Zach Kraler. I've lived in Peoria for 6 years now and have enjoyed being here. I'm here to speak tonight on the resolution to eliminate the county auditor position by ballot referendum. The board contends that this move will save us money and some time. I don't see much money being saved as it's one position and everybody seems to have just moved to the finance department instead of the auditor's office. It seems like we could just keep them in the auditor's office doing whatever they were doing in the finance office. And personally, I believe, and most Illinoisans will agree, that cutting corners on government finance transparency is a bad idea. The more eyes we get on our budget, on our numbers, the better we are. So we're talking about saving like 0.1% of the county budget. It's not very much money. There's a lot of other ways we could save 0.1% of the county budget. And while we're doing this, we're going to increase the risk that in 1 year, 5 years, 20 years, 100 years from now, when we're not here, or maybe we still are here, there's going to be a mistake, and is likely going to cost us more than this person's salary to keep an eye over our finances. And in conclusion, this really looks like a power move by the county board to have control of the audit and remove a set of eyes that the people can put in place a new person every 2-4 years. I'm not sure what the term is. And so there's really no reason we should be worried about having an elected county auditor in this position overseeing the group. And it seems like the board's squandering a lot of time and effort to make a move here that has already been turned down. So I don't know what you guys are trying to hide by getting rid of this position, but as a citizen, it really feels like there is something that's trying to be hid. So I'd like to see you all vote no for this tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Zach.
If you will notice on the agenda, I did skip 2 items that were listed under proclamation and presentation, so we're going to go back to those 2 items, and then we'll proceed to the consent agenda after that. So item number 2 under proclamations and presentations is notification of sale of $19,070,000 general obligation refunding bonds, Series 2022.
Mr. Sorrell, you had to handle that.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the only thing that's required is just to provide the notification to the board in a public meeting that we did close on the sale of the nursing home bonds, or the refunding of the nursing home bonds, yesterday. There is in both your packets and the packets that are available online the documentation to reflect that, and it's a 5-page document that's not needed to be read into the record, but we're happy to answer any questions if the board has any.
Any questions, Wendy? Okay. Oh, excuse me. Yes, Ms. Blair.
How does this, can you explain how much money we save by doing this?
We saved if we would not have refinanced these bonds, we would have spent an additional, I think it ended up being somewhere between $22 and $25 million of added interest cost, plus the added principal, because by prior votes, you did accept the sale proceeds from the sale of the nursing home and some of our own general fund resources to buy down principal. So it was, somewhere between $22 and $25 million is the estimated savings, if I remember correctly.
Good question. Thank you. Any others? Okay. Now
Item number 3 is the report from the external auditor.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone.
Yes.
My name is Brian Lefevre, and I'm the partner in charge of the audit of the financial statements for the county for your year ended December 31st, 2021. I'd like to thank you all for inviting us to present some brief comments on the report resulting from the audit for that fiscal year ended December 31st, 2021. So just to give you a little bit of background on the audit cycle, there was a planning meeting conducted with the management team with the county back in November of 2020. Our preliminary work, planning, risk assessment began in January of 2022. The final field work, what most people think of the audit when we do a lot of testing, looking at invoices and testing the financial statements, was conducted in April. The draft of the report was provided by the county in May. You're very unique in that you prepare your own annual comprehensive financial reports. You should all be commended for that. And then the final report was then finalized in June and met all deadlines required for the audit. The annual comprehensive financial report is in 3 sections: an introductory section, a financial section, and a statistical section. The financial section meets the requirements of Illinois compiled statutes for the external audit. What makes it a comprehensive report is the introductory and statistical section. And within the introductory section of the report, there's an award on Roman numeral 18 that comes from the Government Finance Officers Association the county received the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting, and this is the 34th consecutive year that the county received this award. And it's recognized as the highest level of financial reporting within the local government industry. So you should all be commended for that in your leadership and continuing in the program. The first document in the financial section of the report is on sickage letterhead, page number 1. And the reason it's on sickage letterhead is this is where we've given our opinion on the financial statements of the county. In order for us to give an opinion on the financial statements, we're required to follow 2 sets of standards. The first set of standards are the auditing standards that come from the AICPA, the American Institute for Certified Public Accountants. And those standards tell us the types of procedures we need to perform when we're conducting our audit. The second set of standards are the financial reporting standards that come from GASB, the Governmental Accounting Standards Board. GASB sets the rules for financial statements for local governments such as yourself, the county. Once we follow those 2 sets of standards, we can then issue an opinion on the financial statements. We're pleased to present an unmodified opinion, and what that means is that the financial statements are presented fairly in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles, free of material misstatement. And this is the highest level of opinion that you can receive on your financial statements. On the last page of the Independent Auditor's Report, which is page 4, there's a reference to other reporting required by government auditing standards. That specifically is referring to what's known as the single audit report. So anytime the county receives and expends more than $750,000 in federal funds, you're required to have a separate compliance audit or a grant audit over those federal funds. And it's referred to by the federal government as the federal single audit. A single audit because it's one audit of all of the federal funds that the county expended during the year. During fiscal year 21, the county expended over $6.9 million in federal funds. And in that separate single audit report, we gave 2 opinions. The first opinion is an unmodified opinion or clean opinion on the county's compliance with laws and regulations that could have a material impact on your financial statements. So more good news there. And then we're also required to identify, based on the rules of the federal government, the major programs that we identified to be tested specifically. And those 2 major programs this year were the COVID-19 grant dollars expended of $1.8 million during the year, and the lead-based paint grant of $958,000 expended during the year. And in our testing of those 2 major programs, we had no findings or questioned costs and issued an unmodified opinion on the county's compliance with its major programs. There was one financial statement finding that was noted in the single audit, and that's been a finding for a few years, and that relates to the user access with your Penimation ERP system. And there is a response from management. It's been the same response for a couple years, which is basically there's a limitation on the system, and you're actually in the process of implementing a new ERP system, which should remedy this issue. The last document I'd bring to your attention within the document is what's called the management's discussion and analysis. This is the executive summary of the overall annual comprehensive financial report. If you don't have time to read the entire report, I would encourage you to read the executive summary. It's the one place that you, as the county, can write and describe the differences between the 2020 and 2021 fiscal year, and really does a good job of explaining the financial position of the county. Those are what I'd consider to be the highlights of the audit and the audit process. In conclusion, we received all the information we needed to complete our audit on a timely basis. The county staff are very professional and easy to work with, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Mr. LaFleur, I wonder if you might compare Peoria County to other counties in the state on our finances, on our procedures that we have, and safeguards that we have within the county.
So what I would say in regards to that is the one observation I made previously when I was speaking about the financial statements themselves is you have a number of professionals, CPAs in your finance department, that along with a third-party consultant that assists in preparing the financial statements. we do not have any other counties that we work with that prepare their own financial statements. So with that, there, it takes a great deal of skill to be able to prepare financial statements in accordance with those standards that I talked about from GASB. So that's one thing I think sets apart Peoria County from other counties that we work with. A lot of county finance departments are run by an elected treasurer, and that's not to discount the role of the elected treasurer, but oftentimes the elected treasurers don't necessarily have the skill set to be able to implement complex GASB standards like the role that's taken on by the finance department here at Peoria County.
Anyone else on the board have questions for Mr. LaFleur? Yes, Brian.
I don't have a question, but I'm certainly thankful for a positive report, and it just makes me feel very comfortable to have sickage, because our family and our farm has been with sickage for many, many years, and I know they won't leave any I's undotted or any T's uncrossed, and they're very, very thorough. I appreciate that.
Just for the general public, this is what, our second year with you, or is the third?
I think it's probably, I think it's been 4 or 5 years.
Okay,
But yeah.
but we have a rotation that we can only stay with them so long, and then we choose a different one just for our own protection, so there can't be any misrepresentation. So thank you. Any other questions? Mr. Ricker.
Not a question, more of just a statement. I've worked with sickage in the past, and Mr. LaFleur, they've always done a great job of digging into the details, analyzing, testing our transactions and our business. So again, I know that's what we've hired them to do, and they're independent. So again, thank you for the service and the work and the quality work that you produce. And I'm a nut to read all of this stuff. I love reading the financials, so I like the fact that it's easy to read. I know everyone else will be bored with that, but it's easy to read from a financial standpoint. But thank you for the service.
You're welcome, and thank you for your kind words.
Anyone else? Thank you, Brian. Appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
Next, we'd be at consent agenda.
I have a motion for the consent agenda. Linda Daly and Ms. Blair. Want anything pulled, highlighted? Seeing no hands, please vote.
Chairman Rand,
Aye.
Chairman Rand,
Member Sulzer, Member Sulzer, I believe you said aye, but I wanted to make sure.
Aye.
Thank you. 17 ayes.
17 ayes.
You got it correct, Rachel.
Thank you. Next, we're at zoning ordinances and resolutions. Item number 1 is case number ZBA 2022-029, petition of Jason Talley, a rezoning request from I-1 light industrial to R2 medium density residential. The petitioner proposes to rezone 0.60 acres in order to combine additional property with his adjacent parcels. The parcel is located in Princeville Township. The Zoning Board of Appeals recommends approval. The Land Use Committee concurs.
Mr. Dillon, and Mr. Elsesser. Any comments, Mr. Dillon? Any questions or comments from anyone? Please vote.
Chairman Rand, Chairman Rand, Member Sulzer,
Aye.
Chairman Rand,
Aye. Aye.
17 ayes. Don't understand that. Item number 2, a resolution from your executive committee recommending approval of a referendum question for the November 8th, 2022 general election to eliminate the office of county auditor.
Have a motion? Rachel, a second? Kate? Discussion. Rachel?
Make sure Jim's microphone is on. Make sure Jim's microphone is on when he talks.
Thank you. No.
Thanks, Matt. Thank you, Chairman. And knowing that this vote for a resolution was going to be coming before us as a board, one of the things that I did was really look into, in order to make a decision, what our checks and balances are. I know I'm going to get a little bit granular in some of the research and some of the discussions I've had, but I think it's important to at least understand when an invoice comes in or when a bill is going to be paid, what is the process for who sees it, how it's approved. I know a lot of us here on the board have knowledge of that, but just for the public or for those that are going to be looking at the decision that we're going to be making, just wanted to review what that check and balance system is. You know, we heard from our external auditors about their process, the report that they gave the county, but I think it's also important on a day-to-day level to understand in considering this vote, what is the process for getting a bill paid? What's the process for getting an invoice paid? So forgive me for getting a little bit granular, but again, I think this is important for us to think about. So when a department receives an invoice for either a service or commodity, the department generates, department assistant generates an AP batch. That unique vendor number is then assigned, a unique vendor number is then assigned to every vendor. So like, for example, if it was Office Depot or, you know, fill in the blank with whatever vendor we would use, that would have a unique vendor number. They could appear on multiple invoices, but that there would be unique to that vendor or that payee. Each invoice then stipulates which item in the budget covers the invoice. So again, we approve an annual budget every year. We have line items for each of those. Each bill, each invoice that is paid is directly tied to what part of the budget and what line item in the budget it comes out of. The administrative assistant then electronically sends invoices to the department head for approval, and then the department head can either approve them all or approve them individually. And once an invoice is approved, it then goes to county finance. Finance does a check to make sure it's currently tied to a line item in the budget. If there's not enough money in that line item, the assistant is notified and asked to initiate a budget transfer. The administrative assistant then receives a warning that this needs to occur, but the bill does still go through. And then there's a prepayment audit that then checks the invoice and the vendor amount. Once approved, the AP clerk then brings the batch to initiate the check printing process. At this point, the county treasurer is notified, and the checks that are ready to be printed, and the treasurer's clerk will paste the check in the printer so that a hard check can actually be printed. If it's in a what they call a payment via ACH, the invoice then goes through the same process, but a voucher is used instead of an AP batch. That voucher then, after approved, goes to the treasurer for entry and disbursement. The process is going to change a little bit. We talked about before the situation with getting new finance system and software, so there will be some changes to that that have been recommended by our external auditor. And then the county finance system, county finance team does take a representative sample to cross-compare for accuracy, and then finance software debits that line item in the budget to make sure that the expense is tied to the correct item. So kind of some of the reason I wanted to walk through that is I think a lot of people don't understand, you know, when something is actually paid, how that process works, and the internal checks and balances that are already in place. I think it was good for us to be able to hear from our external auditor today about the health of our process, the transparency around that, because I know that we've heard from multiple people about the importance of transparency and what that means to us as far as making this decision. In looking at this, I was also encouraged by the fact that, and this was also mentioned tonight, but just to reiterate it, less than 5% of local governments prepare their own financial statements and then also have an external auditor audit them for that transparency. So again, making sure that when we do make a decision or when we do look at possibly sending this back to the voters to let them take a look at what system we already have in place today for the transparency and for the checks and balances, and making sure that we as a board have a process in place that ensures that there is proper authority at multiple levels and there's multiple eyes looking at as bills or invoices are paid. So I just feel from some of the research that I've done and some of the conversations that I've had over the past couple of weeks looking into this, from that point and that standpoint, I am encouraged that both not only, our current internal finance team, our elected officials here at the county feel that, but also those externally looking at our budget and how bills are paid and how transparent we are with our process.
Thank you, Rachel. Very good. Anyone else have comments they'd like to bring? Ms. Pachusa?
Hi, I just wanted to address some of the comments by Ms. Thomas herself. I know that this probably feels very personal to her, and just like when we vote on elected positions' salaries, I think the public and all of us involved in government have to be reminded that we are not voting on the person, we are voting on the position. And although it can feel very personal when someone is trying to, adjust your salary or eliminate your position, it is not about the person. I think that we have great confidence, especially with the report from Sikich, that our finances are being not just well maintained, but excellently maintained. I think we have a wonderful finance department, and I think our finances are extremely well managed. And I think that the public needs to know that we have full confidence in how we manage our finances. I just have one question. So thank you, Rachel, for outlining that. I think that was really helpful. At what stage is the auditor involved in that process, currently the county auditor? Or I don't know, sorry, if I'm putting you on the spot, maybe Scott can answer that instead.
Would you prefer I answer that?
The reason I would say yes, because I know the process, it has been different at different times within the last couple of years, so that's why I wanted to.
That's correct.
To see where it is as of today, because I think the way, at least from what I know, we were getting reports as a board through the end of last year, but I can't, correct me if I'm wrong, I can't remember seeing a report that came from the auditor that I can think of. If it was toward the beginning of the year, so I'm not positive at what point she is involved today. I'm not sure.
So she does have a role in maintaining the master vendor file. So anybody that is issued an accounts payable payment, whether it be via paper check or ACH payment, has a vendor number. That number is a unique number to each vendor. That vendor, obviously has to provide us information about the business or the individual, and she maintains that. So whenever there's a change to an existing vendor, whether it be an address or some other component of the information, or we have a new vendor being created, she has the responsibility for getting those vendors into the system. And absent a vendor being in the master vendor file, they won't get paid because everything ties back to that master vendor number. So that's the primary component of how she's engaged in the process today.
Kate, go ahead.
Thank you. The other thing I just wanted to address is that it is not unprecedented for us to go to the voters and ask them the same question in a different way twice. We did that with the roads referendum, and I think sometimes we don't like the answer that we hear, but the truth is we have to listen to our voters. The voters did not want to increase taxes both times we asked them on the voter referendum about roads, and we did not. So we do listen to our voters, and I have no problem going to the voters again to ask them one more time if they want to eliminate this position.
Anyone else? Jennifer.
Having polled the constituents in my district through conversation, it seems there's a lot of support for referendums in general. So I see no reason not to vote to give the voters a voice.
Thank you. Mr. Ricker.
Yeah, very similar comment that I've heard positive support for putting a referendum out. Appreciate Ms. Relaford's explanation to the public. I've been through that many times. I understand the workings internally. The other thing I'd like to do is highlight for the public that, yes, in 2018, we did have a referendum, but the referendum was to replace an elected auditor with an internal auditor. It was a transfer of one to the other. It really was not what we're doing here with this proposal of eliminating the position. And as time has moved on from back in the, I'll say 20, 30 years ago, when auditors ran other parts of it and everything was manual, we did not have checks and balances. Just like every business, we put technology in, manages our finances, it has checkpoints. Things will not get paid or approved until people approve it, and electronically, everybody's signature is matched. So if somebody approves something, they own it. So we have a lot of controls in place today that were not possible 20, 30 years ago for the public. We have the transparency portal. Anybody, any citizen can go out any day and look at what bills we paid, who we paid to, and they know exactly who was paid, and internally they can challenge who approved it. We have electronic documents of who approved each step along the way, all of the steps that Ms. Relaford gave us. So again, times have changed. We just are moving with that. Other counties have also made that decision to make the changes. So again, it's time for Peoria County to put this out there for the public and make sure the public understands that we do have processes, security, things in place to make sure that there is an accurate accounting of expenditures. So with that, I do support putting this out as a referendum.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Elsesser.
I just want to thank Rachel for this, her very thorough explanation. I think it was good for the county board members to be reminded of that, and also for the general public to hear how thorough the process is behind the scenes. So thank you for your work, Rachel.
Anyone else? I'll make a few comments myself. Mr. Rand has been challenging us to be efficient, to watch our budget, and we've saved a lot of money in the process. To give a little past history, we had a referendum before to eliminate the recorder's office, and we moved that into our county clerk. And a lot of improvements have taken place in that time. We also, through election, created a election commission. And so some of the duties that were in Ms. Parker's office are now over in the election commissions. A lot of school districts, a lot of different governmental bodies ask for a second referendum on items because they are behind, whether it's a new school, whatever it is, they think it's best for their area. We are asking to reduce money out of the budget because it's a savings that we can do. So we're asking a second time for this. And so I think this is a little bit out of the ordinary. Not very many governmental bodies are trying to reduce the cost. I think that, as Mr. Ricker said about the transparency, this audit that we just had presented to us tonight, that will be live for our public to see. It's out there. Every month we have our finances are out there for the public to see. We are not trying to hide anything. We are not trying to cover up anything. If anything, we want to do a better job of digging in and finding any issues that we might have and following the audit that we have to make any of those corrections. So with that, I'm going to support this. And if there's anyone else want to make a comment before we go ahead and vote? All right, please vote.
Chairman Rand,
Chairman Rand,
Aye.
Member Salzer, 15 ayes and 2 nays. Next is item number 3, a resolution from your Public Safety and Justice Committee recommending approval of State Fiscal Year 23 Illinois Department of Human Services grant for the Peoria County Visitation Center and an amendment to the Neutral Site Custody and Exchange Fund fiscal year 22 budget in the amount of $38,000.
Mr. Rosenbaum, first. Is there a second? Rob, thank you. Discussion. No discussion? Okay. Please vote.
Chairman Rand,
Aye.
Member Salzer,
Aye.
17 ayes. Item number 4, a resolution from your Public Safety and Justice Committee recommending approval of the annual salary of the Public Defender of Peoria County in the amount of $169,878.39 effective July 1st, 2022.
Bill, or Paul? Yes, Ms. Blair. Any discussion? Paul?
This resolution is because we have to raise the public defender's salary the same amount as what the state's attorney's goes every year according to the state, which is 2.9%, and so it's a requirement of the state. It's not that any other reason why we're doing that. Thank you.
Everybody understand that because of COLA? Okay. Any other questions or comments? Yes, Mr. Renaud.
I'm just curious, will we have to have a resolution for the sheriff's salary also, since it's tied to the state's attorney's salary? Is it?
Because the difference between the two, if memory serves correctly, is the public defender's salary is a minimum of 90% of the state's attorney's salary. The sheriff's salary is an exact percentage of the state's attorney's salary, which I believe is 80%.
I thought it was at least. I think it's a
Maybe
minimum
it's at
also.
least. So I know that we a PAF, which is the internal form that we use for any changes in status of any team member or employee, that went through the day that Sheriff Watkins was sworn in. So it looked, just quickly looking at it, because you asked me about this before the meeting, Mr. Renaud, the wage that is there is what it should be effective July 1. If the board feels comfortable, we can certainly bring forward a resolution through the next round of committee meetings to formalize that.
I guess just procedurally, I don't see the difference between the two. So so we would have to do this for the sheriff in the future should the state's attorney get a COLA.
Correct. So assuming the language is the same, that it's an at least, so obviously you have the discretion, you could go more than the 80% for the sheriff, just like you have the discretion to go more than 90% for the public defender. We would bring forward a resolution to set it at whatever amount, and the resolution here before you tonight is at exactly the 90% level. We'll bring forward something through the next round of committees to officially, just to be consistent, to set the sheriff at what it's at, which is 80%.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Please vote.
Chairman Rand,
Aye.
Member Salzer,
Aye.
17 ayes. Item number 5 is suspension of rules.
Need a motion? Mr. Dillon, Mr. Ricker, thank you. Please vote.
Chairman Rand,
Aye.
Member Salzer,
Aye.
16 ayes, 1 nay. Item number 6 is a proclamation extending the declaration of emergency due to COVID-19 in Peoria County, Illinois.
Okay, can I get a motion? Jennifer and Sharon, thank you. Okay, Jenny, do you want to give a little state's attorney thing on that?
Happy to. This is the monthly emergency declaration proclamation that you all have been approving throughout the COVID pandemic. This allows you to access funds for COVID that are available to the state when we're in this state of emergency.
Any other comments or questions? Please vote.
Chairman Rand,
Aye.
Member Salzer,
Aye.
Ms. Williams, 13 ayes, 4 nays. Next, we'd be at miscellaneous and announcements.
Okay, we can go around the table here. Anyone have miscellaneous? Sharon, you first.
Thank you, Mr. Fennell. I just wanted to tell people about a survey that we're doing, the resident survey. This is for expanding waste and recycling services in the unincorporated areas of Peoria County. So I just would like for people to go onto our website and take that survey and learn more about what we're trying to do. Thank you.
Do you have a website? Oh, okay, all right. Okay, anyone else?
Andrew has a question.
Andrew has a question, go ahead.
I was wondering if Sharon could tell me whether a person is only allowed to take one survey or could submit more than one.
I don't know, but I would say just submit one.
Okay, Ms. Blair.
I just want to wish my fellow teachers, faculty, and students a good new school year. Let's hope it's a healthy one.
Absolutely, absolutely. Anyone else? Yes, Mr. Rosenbaum.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to thank the Highway Department. When they were out seal coating this year, it's the first time I ever saw them do both lanes at the same time, and it was impressive. They just blew down my road, oiled both sides, and chipped it, and it was just amazing. For some of the people wanting to go up and down, and they had to wait a little bit, but I mean, I think it was the fastest way and the safest way of doing it. Just close off a section, get it seal coated, and it was, they did a really nice job, fast and efficient. So I just want to give kudos to them. Thank you.
Very good. Anyone else over on this side? No? Okay, then we are adjourned. Thank you very much.